Rounding it up with the last 5 minutes of the show, we have just time to go to one more person in Florida. Cal is calling from Florida, who thinks he has high cholesterol, I think. Hey, Cal, thanks for the call. You are live.
Hi, it's Carol, and I'm calling for my husband who has high cholesterol, and he's on lovastatin.
Yeah, well, your husband doesn't have high cholesterol. He's been fooled. He doesn't have high cholesterol.
I agree, and I've heard you talk about all that.
He may. What are the numbers? Do you know?
10 milligrams.
No, what are the numbers for your cholesterol?
I don't know, but they're in range right now.
Well, all right. So here's what we need to understand. All right, this is a very important thing to understand. And like the fella said, you don't know what you don't know. Okay. So the reference ranges that were developed for cholesterol are based on research which is way old and which had an a priori built-in bias. There's tons of published research which clearly shows there is no relationship between high cholesterol and heart disease. It does not exist. By the way, if you're a postmenopausal white woman, the published research clearly shows that healthy cholesterol levels are over 300. Now, MDs go crazy if your total cholesterol is over 199. When I was in medical school, it was 210. They didn't like to see it be over 210. Then they lowered it to 200, and then they lowered it to 199. Just from lowering it to 200 to 199, I think that allowed for the sale of something like $2 million more worth of cholesterol-lowering statin drugs a year. This is a scam of biblical proportions wrought down on you by the pharmaceutical industry. And look, there's a Russian doctor. His name is Ufi Ravenskov. I'll spell the last name for you. It's R like Roger, A like Apple, V like Victor, N like Nancy, S like Samuel, K, O, V like Victor, Ravenskov. Just do a Google search for Ravenskov. Go to his website. He did a meta-analysis of all of the research ever published anywhere in the world on cholesterol, wrote a book about it, and unequivocally proved that there is, in fact, no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. It does not exist. And even if you're not scientifically minded, I mean, just from street sense, right, it should be glaringly apparent. We sell more statin drugs, cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, than any other classification of medicine in the world. Statin drugs, cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, are the number one, brand of prescription medication sold in the world, to the tune of like $20, $23, $24, $25 billion a year in sales. And they've been selling since the 1985, more or less. 1982, I think, 1983 or 1984, 1985, I forget. In the early 80s, statin drugs burst onto the scene, and they've taken off in sales ever since. Now, since the administration of statin drugs, since the arrival of statin drugs to the medical marketplace, even though they're the largest selling category of medicines in the world, the incidence of heart disease has not changed. It hasn't changed. Now, you would think that if there was, in fact, a relationship between cholesterol and heart disease, since we're selling $25 billion worth of statin drugs a year, there should have been a change in heart disease rates. But just as many people get heart disease now as they ever did. Just as many people get heart disease now as they ever did. The only thing that's changed with heart disease statistics is now the MDs, because remember, their wheelhouse is trauma care. They're able to keep people alive after 2 or 3 or 4 heart attacks now, whereas before you die after your second, right? So they're good at keeping your heart alive if you have an unhealthy heart, but you don't have an unhealthy heart because you have high cholesterol. You have an unhealthy heart because your doctor's a freaking idiot and is just a lapdog to the pharmaceutical industry. Now, if your doctor paid attention to the literature like I do, your doctor wouldn't prescribe statin drugs either, because they do not work. And by the way, we believe that the remarkable incidence of Alzheimer's has risen from obscurity to the 6th leading cause of death in the world. And if you look at the genesis of Alzheimer's, it parallels almost exactly the arrival and the distribution of statin drugs onto the market, which isn't surprising because 95% of the part of the brain that's affected by Alzheimer's is made from cholesterol. So when you drive cholesterol into the ditch with statin drugs, nothing happens to heart disease, but Alzheimer's skyrockets from obscurity to the 6th leading cause of death. You want to trust the pharmaceutical industry, go right ahead. I would put my money on Dr. Wallach. You do not have high cholesterol. I like to see total cholesterol be over 250 in white males. We're out of time, folks.